joining us. We are going to just begin tonight. Tonight, we've got like an hour set aside for the presentation. It probably won't take that long, so I definitely will not be talking that long. We're going to take some time at the end to answer all your questions. So make sure you're taking notes. Make sure you're writing things down, and we'll give you time to speak up. Feel free to, if you want to stop me during the presentation, that's fine as well. Or if you want to wait till the very end, we can go back and address any questions that you may have. To kick things off, I just wanted to introduce myself to you guys. My name is Susan Wright. I am a licensed North Carolina and South Carolina real estate agent. I work with Savvy & Co. Savvy is a wonderful agency to work with. We're located uptown Charlotte in the Elizabeth area in a cute little blue house. I have been working with Savvy for 6 years, and I've been a licensed agent for 7. I am a North Carolina native, so I actually grew up on Lake Norman. So I've been in this wonderful state for a really long time, and I've been living in Charlotte for the past 30 years with my husband, Ken. We have 2 adult daughters who also live in Charlotte. I've had the pleasure of helping them purchase real estate throughout the years. And we live here in Charlotte with our 2 rescue dogs, Bogey and Daisy. I have talked to them tonight and asked them not to join our webinar. It's been a crazy weather time. We've had a lot of rain, so they are a little antsy. So if you hear them in the background tonight, I apologize for that. But they may chime in. So just be prepared for dog barks. So I will go ahead and get started tonight with our presentation. Before I dive in, I just want to make sure that I have let all the participants in. And I just want to make sure y'all bear with me. Okay, I think we're good. All right, guys. So tonight we're going to talk about shopping for a home in 2021. And we're going to talk about how to win the bidding war. So I'm not sure where you are in the home purchasing process. Maybe you are out 2020 shopping for a home. So maybe you know a little bit of what this real estate market is like. Maybe you're just gearing up for 2021. Maybe you're just kind of thinking about, excuse me 1 second, I'm gonna let one more person in. Maybe you're just starting to think about getting ready to purchase a home in 2021. And welcome everyone if you just joined us. So thanks for coming. So tonight we want to talk a little bit about how to prepare ourselves for this crazy market in 2021. And again, I recognize that you guys are all at different levels in terms of what you know about the market. So what I'm hoping for you guys tonight is to walk away from the seminar feeling a little bit more empowered, that you will be able to find your home in 2021, feeling empowered that if you do find yourself in a bidding war, and you probably are, we're going to talk more about that tonight, that you'll be confident that you're going to set yourself up so that you can put your best offer forward and you're going to have an opportunity to win that home. So let's talk a little bit about the market in 2021 and where we are in here. So right now we are in what is called a seller's market. So if you are selling a home in 2021, that is wonderful. It's a great market for a seller. If you're a buyer for 2021, it's a little more difficult, a little more tricky because you are not in control. It is actually the sellers who are in control of the market. So what I am seeing out there as a licensed real estate agent, if homes are priced correctly, so if they're priced at the right level and they're presented well, they look well when you walk through them, but that home is going to be in a bidding war. So it's not how to avoid a bidding war, it's how to navigate through one, because you are almost positively going to see a bidding war if you're shopping for a home in 2021. So again, tonight's seminar is about how to help prepare you to navigate through that bidding war so that you have an opportunity to win one. So we're talking about multiple offers. We're seeing those a lot out there. And as a So what I'm going to do in tonight's class is give you ways to make your offers stand out so you can get noticed. I've got some tips and tricks to give you tonight, but before I jump into my list, I want to talk a little bit about some stats that we're seeing in North Carolina. I want to share those with you. All right, so what we're seeing, two things are driving this market. One thing is decreased inventory. So these actual stats came straight from the MLS. This is January's inventory for the last 3 years. So we're going to date it back to 2019 up to 2020. And what we've seen is the green represents the entire MLS, which is all of North Carolina almost. And then the blue represents just our Charlotte market. So the numbers you see are the month supply of houses. You can see from 2019 all the way to the present of 2021, that if you were out in the market in 2019 or 2020, you already felt the tightness of the market. We already were experiencing multiple offers. It was a seller's market. 2021 is already proven to be even tighter. So that's why it's so important to know how to navigate a bidding war. Like I said previously, it's not avoiding a bidding war, it's how to navigate it, because you're going to find it. The other thing that is driving our market are our historically low interest rates. The graph will kind of show you we are down in very low rates right now. That is some really great news if you're a buyer. And I want to give you some good news tonight. So I don't want to intimidate you or make you afraid of this market, even though it is a tough one. I want to educate you and empower you. But so the good news is the interest rates are historically low. As a buyer, that gives you more purchase power, more buying power. So it's good news. But it is driving more buyers to the market because they want to take advantage of the low rates. They want to use this for probably the most expensive purchase of their lives, which typically is going to be their home purchase. So if you take two stats and then you want to add into it that almost, I guess in March, we'll be 1 year into a pandemic, which has caused everybody to stay at home at many times. Most people are still working from home, and a lot of parents are having their kids do school from home. So again, that's kind of driving people to kind of look around where they're living, reevaluate it, and maybe think about it's time to get out in the market and purchase what I want. Maybe I need 2 home offices now, or a place where my kids can do school from. So again, that's driving buyers to the market. All right. So the question is, if you are a buyer today, what does this mean for you? So let's talk about that for a little bit. So it is a seller's market. I mentioned that before, that it was a seller's market, which that means the sellers are kind of in control. So what does that mean for you as a buyer? I'm going to let somebody in from the waiting room. Welcome. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. Just want to let everybody who was waiting into the presentation. So back up a little bit. So what does that mean for today's buyers? It is a seller's market. And what that means for you as a buyer is that you are not in control. So if you are a buyer that is looking for a transaction that that you have the need to be able to get a discount on the price or have a lot of negotiating with, today's market is probably not your market, because it isn't there. You're going to be competing against other buyers out there. So it's more of a competition than more of a negotiation. So that's, again, just trying to educate you on what the market is going to offer you. So what I'm seeing out there on listings and when I'm representing buyers, or most buyers are going to be into a multiple offer situation. So when they, again, I know I said this earlier, but if a home is priced correctly and shows well, there are going to be multiple buyers out there that are competing for the same house. So kind of get that in your mindset, that I'm not going to be the only one. Again, that kind of goes to the fact that you're not in control, that it's actually the seller who's in control. Okay, so next point is homes go under contract in days and sometime in hours, right? So what does that mean to you as a buyer? Well, first of all, it means you need to be ready. So it's best if you're working with an agent, or if you're not, you need to get with an agent that can actually set you up on a MLS or multiple listing service. They can define the area that you want to be in, along with your price point, and have you set up on an automatic email drip to where a house comes to market in your price point and in your desired location, and you'll get a notification immediately when that house goes active or is a coming soon. So you will know, you'll be able to contact your agent, you'll be able to be the first ones in the door to actually see it. Because what we're seeing when houses go under contract so quickly, a lot of buyers who aren't quite aware of what's going on, they miss out. They don't even get a chance to walk through one or to participate in the bidding war because, they press pause for a day or two. So just make sure you're keeping your eye on the market. I think you can set up those drips with Zillow as well. If that's something you're using, just make sure you're getting that notification ASAP. The other thing that listers are doing, they're using a status that's called coming soon. And you may have seen this out there. So what coming soon status means is that you as a buyer cannot go through the house because it's not active, and sellers have to treat everyone fairly and equally. They can't let one person in early, but not the rest of the buyers out there. So when it is a coming soon, no one may come through the house, but it is still advertised and you will still be able to see when the live date is. What some buyers are doing with coming soons is they may know the neighborhood because maybe they've toured other homes in the neighborhood. They may even know the layout of the house because if it's a builder community, a lot of those will have a plan that they'll build several times over in that community. And they may make an offer sight unseen. So it's not uncommon for a house to go under contract even before it hits the market. So the moral of this for you as a buyer is just be prepared and get those notifications. All right. The next one, showings have wait time. So again, this is just trying to mentally prepare you with what's going to happen. Going back to the fact that every house that is priced right and shows well is going to have multiple people that want to see it. So I've noticed with my listings this year, the first day they go live, I usually have back-to-back showings. It's not uncommon to have 18 to 20 people come through in a day. That's on 15 to 30-minute increments. But what that means for you as a buyer is that when you get to the property, there's probably somebody that's going to be there, another buyer that's going to be going through the house. You'll have to wait your turn, go through, and when you're leaving, there's going to be someone coming right on the heels of you. It creates a sense of urgency. So I'm telling you just so you'll know, that's just the market that we're in. All right. So showings will have wait lines. The other biggie, and can be a little hard to digest if you haven't been out there and seen the market yourself, is the fact that homes, once a home has closed, you can actually go back online to see what it closed for and what it was listed for. And it is not uncommon for homes that sell 10, 20, 30, and plus over the list price. So that's what buyers are doing these days. They're bidding up because they are in a bidding war. So they are willing to go that much over list price. And a lot of this depends on the location of the home, where it is. Different locations will demand a higher bid up price than others will. So again, work with your agent who knows that local area that can let you know what that is. Because the question for 2021, it used to be is, what's the average close price of houses in this neighborhood? That's not the question for 2021. For 2021, it's what's the average ask over list price for this neighborhood, because that's what we're seeing these days. Okay. All right. So we know it's a seller's market. We know that there are bidding wars abound. So what are we going to do? How can you best position yourself? What I'm going to do in tonight's presentation is let you know that for you, as a buyer, how can you be successful? So tonight I'm going to talk about 9 different things that you can do to help you win the deal. All right. I just want to mention that there are 9 here. Every situation is not for every person, and you're certainly not going to do all 9 things for one offer, because that would be a little too much. And not all of them are for each individual buyer. It is very important that you work with a great agent that can let you know how to best position the deal for the house that you're viewing, for the offer that you're putting in. So, all right, so let's get started. So number 1 is gather information to sweeten the deal. All right, so what does this mean? All right, so what I like to do as a buyer's agent is, if I know I've got a buyer that's interested in the house, when I'm writing the offer, I want to know if there's anything that list agent can give me that can help my offer stand out, that will meet some kind of need that seller wants. So I always call the list agent. Now, the list agent may or may not answer my call. They don't have to respond to me. They don't have to tell me anything, but most of them will. If they don't answer their phones, I will send them a text or send them an email and try to communicate in whatever their preferred method is. But usually I'll ask a question like, do your sellers have a preferred close date? Because my buyers are flexible and we're more than willing to meet what they want to do. And I find out a lot of things with that. Sometimes I'll find out that they're flexible. It doesn't matter, whatever. So, okay. I may find out that they do have a preferred date. Maybe they bought a house somewhere and they're closing on X date and they need those 2 closings to align up. So, which is great. I can write my offer with that close date in mind. I also may find out that maybe they haven't found a house. Maybe they put their house on the market. They want to see how much it was going to sell for. They want to know how much they're going to have to work with to go purchase their house. But what they do need is time. They need time to find that house, get their deal written, and close. So what we're seeing more and more days are sellers requesting to sell their house, close on their house, then do a rent back for like 30, 60, 90 days. So that gives them the opportunity to go and purchase their house and then move out. So again, gather information to sweeten the deal. Sometimes you'll even get more information. It's not that common to get more information, but sometimes they will. And you can always use this to help sweeten your offer by matching what your sellers want, the sellers want. Okay, number 2 is be prepared to pay over list price. So we've already talked about you're going to be in a bidding war. We've talked about, 10,000 plus over ask price is not uncommon in today's market. So how can you prepare for that? All right, I talked a little bit earlier about getting those MLS, multiple listing service homes sent to you in your desired price range and your desired area. So when you're setting your price range for the homes that you're going to view, you need to account for the fact that you're going to have to bid over the price. So I'm sure everybody out there has already gotten their pre-approval from their lender. And that pre-approval usually comes in a range of, let's just say you're approved from 250 to 350 or 2 to 3, or that's the range you're shopping in. And then you're going to have your desired range that you don't want to go above. So if your desired range is, let's say 300,000, you may want to do your search for 280 or 290 to be your cap. That will give you some cushion to be able to go above list price, because that's what you're going to have to do in this market. All right. That's be prepared to pay over list. That's how you can do that. Moving on to number 3, strong due diligence. All right, this is a very, very important one. And I will say my last listing and my last buyer agent that I represented, we used this one and it was very, very effective. So due diligence, let's kind of pause and talk about what due diligence is. So due diligence is a fee. It is a fee that you are paying the seller to take their house off the market while it goes under contract for you as the buyer, and you as a buyer are doing your due diligence, which includes your inspections, it includes your appraisal, it includes getting your loan from pre-approval to the approval process, all your due diligence. So it is money that you're putting down for them to take their house off the market. What we were seeing in years past is that due diligence would be a certain percentage of the price. So let's just say 1% of the price, your due diligence and your earnest money deposit would equal 1%. So if you're buying a $200,000 house, $2,000. A lot of times we split it 1,000 for due diligence and 1,000 for earnest money deposit. I'm not going to go into earnest money deposit on tonight's thing, but we can, if there's a question about it, I'll feel free to ask me after the presentation. But we're seeing even stronger due diligence. I have seen anywhere from $2,500 up to $5,000 in due diligence. This will be one of those points that will not work for every buyer. First of all, you have to be able to have those kind of funds to put down for due diligence. You also have to know that if you walk away from the deal for any reason, that is forfeited to the seller. So you have to be pretty certain that this is the home for you and that nothing is going to cause you to walk away from this deal. Having a good real estate buyer's agent by your side is very important for this. So they can guide you along, talk you through it, walk you through the house to see where there might be any pitfalls from an inspection or an appraisal or anything. So it's very important, but it's also a very good way to win a deal. All right. So strong due diligence. All right. Number 4, agree to as is condition. Okay. So what is as is condition? As is means you are willing to accept the house as is without repair. All right. Before I go further on this one, I'm going to back up and let you know that in North Carolina, the legal contract that we use for an offer to purchase is always written as is. What that means is that no seller in not a seller in North Carolina is required to do a repair. The reality is they usually do. There's usually some kind of repairs that are negotiated during the due diligence period, but legally they don't have to do them at all. So what this says to you as a buyer is if you're wanting to use this, this is basically telling your seller that you're not going to nickel and dime them to death for every little bitty thing that they find on the inspection report. You know, there are some things like a doorknob sticking or just little repair things that you're not going to bother with. It's really important in a multiple offer situation for a seller to realize that even though people are bidding houses up, they're not going to try to tear it back down by asking for XYZ repairs. So it gives them some assurance. With condition, you can also limit it. So if it seems a little scary to do an as is, you can also say, I agree to take this property without repair up to a certain amount, let's say $1,000 or whatever amount you agree upon. So that's a way to do as is condition. All right. All right, guys, moving on. The next one is waive the appraisal. All right, so we're going to talk about waive the appraisal. Okay. For one thing, if you're a buyer and you're working with a lender as part of your offer, you have to have an appraisal. That appraisal gives that buyer the assurance that what they're lending money on is actually the value of what you're paying. So you cannot go without the appraisal if you are working with a lender. What you can do, even if you are working with a lender and you want to waive the appraisal, is in your offer, right in there to say, because here's what's happening. Let me back up a few steps. In today's market, because we are seeing homes sell for over list price. And again, especially those that get 10, 20, maybe even 30 over, there is a really strong chance that the appraisal is not going to support that purchase price. And the seller knows that. So in order to give them a little more comfort that I'm going to make this work and I'm not going to let this deal fall apart if you choose me as your buyer, if the appraisal doesn't come in, I'm going to bring more money to the table as a down payment to make this deal work, or I can restructure my loan and still make this deal work. All right. Again, on this one, you can also put a dollar amount to it if you want to. I can bring up to 2,000, 5,000, whatever it is that you think is appropriate. Work with your agent to make sure you're structuring that correctly. But that is another way to sweeten your deal. Give your seller comfort to know that you're in this for the long haul and this deal is not going to fall apart on your dime. All right. Next point is use a great lender. Okay, so what do I mean by this, and how does that help you as a buyer? So again, I'm sure all you buyers out there have already gotten your pre-approval, because that is the first step in searching for a home as a buyer, is to get your pre-approval. And when you use a lender, typically what they're going to do is they're going to pull your credit, make sure your credit's okay, and then look at your income. And then they'll give you like a range from, like we talked about earlier, from 2 to 3 or whatever your range is to purchase. So once there are lenders out there who can take that a step further and make you a stronger candidate for purchasing. And what they can do, and some lenders will do this, is actually take your application. Excuse me one second. Sorry, that was my uninvited dog coming to the presentation. They can take your application and they can put that through underwriting. And a lot of lenders who do this will actually give you a certificate saying that this is a very strong buyer. They've already been through underwriting, and that lets that seller know there are not going to be any surprises when that loan goes through underwriting, that these buyers are going to get to the closing table, and that's what every seller wants to hear. All right, and of course the other way to moving on to the next one, it is limit seller concession request. Okay, so what is a seller concession request? A seller concession is anything that a buyer is asking for that is not typically part of the contract. So for example, fixtures like your stove, the microwave that's built in, those are all fixtures they convey with the house. If you're asking for a refrigerator, the washer and the dryer, those are concessions because those are not fixtures. They move out, and they typically would go with the seller unless they choose to convey them. So if you're asking for that, that's a concession. Concessions can also be seen in the form of financial help, like with closing cost, or they can be seen like homeowner warranties. A lot of times you'll see people ask for homeowner warranty and for the seller to pay for that. So what you have to remember as a buyer is when you're presenting your offer and you've got those concessions in there, a seller is reviewing that. They're looking at the purchase price, and they're minusing out for each concession that you asked for, and they're coming to your bottom line to see what their total is, what is the money in their pocket. And they're comparing that with every other offer that is out there. So just make sure you're not loaded up on seller concessions. It's not bad to ask for those things, but just make sure you're not overdoing it. All right. Okay, number 8, consider adding an escalation clause to your offer. So what's an escalation clause? An escalation clause is a legal document that is drafted by an attorney, and Savvy has one on file that we can use should we need to. And what it does is when you're going into multiple offers, it will have your initial offer. Let's just say you're offering $200,000. This house is $190,000. You're offering $200,000, but you're willing to go up to $10,000 above that to $210,000 in increments of $1,000. Okay, so it escalates. And the reason it escalates is because another offer has come in. Let's say you're at $200,000, someone comes in at $205,000, you'll go to $206,000. Someone comes in at $208,000, you'll escalate to $209,000, so forth and so on until you get to the very top of your escalation, and then it stops. There's good and bad to an escalation clause. So they're positioned so that they can rise above another offer. The list agent that you're working with, she or he does not have to provide those offers to you. So you're a little bit at the mercy that the list agent that you're working with is a very ethical one and is only going to raise that price should they get another offer, but they do not have to prove or show that that offer comes in. So you have to think about that. The other thing with the escalation clause, a lot of times some sellers can look at that and think, well, if you can pay 210, why are you offering 200? Why don't you just come up here at the top? So there's good and bad to it. They work well in many cases. Again, work with your real estate agent to see if this is something that would be good for you to help you win the deal. All right. Very last but not least, I would say work with a very experienced and savvy agent. Experience is key here. Someone who knows the area that you're looking in, someone who is more than willing to go the day a house hits the market to see it, because sometimes timing is key. Someone who knows how to use these tools to help you position yourself to get the best offer out there. Someone who's not afraid to pick up the phone and call the list agent and see what kind of information they can get to help position yourself. And a savvy agent, a smart one, but also a savvy and co agent as well, because we would love to have your business. So in closing, and we're going to have some Q&A after this, but I just want to close real quick and just say thanks to all of you for coming. I really appreciate your time tonight. I don't want you to be intimidated by the seller's market that we're experiencing. I just last weekend, I had a client who we went out to look at an adorable home. It was perfect for her. It was right near her work. It was exactly what she wanted, had the perfect storage. And of course, just seeing it online is just see it was priced right, and it was very cute. I knew we were going to be in a bidding war, and she knew it too, because she had been out in the market for a while, but we were still able to use some of the tools that I just went over with you, and we won the bid. So she is going to be a proud homeowner, and there was success for her. There can also be success for you as well. So don't be discouraged. It is a tough market out there, but use the tools, navigate wisely, and you too can be homeowners in 2021. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. I would love to open it up to any questions. If anybody has a question, please feel free to unmute and ask.
I have a quick question. What's your thoughts on writing letters to the sellers?
Yeah, so thanks for that question. I appreciate that. And that was actually a point of my presentation that I removed, and I'll tell you why. I do use letter writing to the seller. And it can be good and bad. So it's a little tricky to do. Our fair housing has just come out with a more stern policy where they want to make sure we're treating everyone fairly, and we're not discriminating. Familial status is a protected class. So when you're writing the letter, you need to keep it very much about the house and not about your person. Because what you don't want to do is give a seller a reason to eliminate you as a buyer. So what I encourage people to do now is when writing letters, it's fine, but keep it all about the house. For example, if you really loved the color scheme in the house, you can talk about that. If you really loved what they did with the kitchen, or what they did in their master bathroom, or whatever. But as long as you're keeping it about the house, that's fine. Just don't mention anything about your family status, because then that would affect the guidelines. So yeah, I think it's a good idea still. You just have to keep it about the house. All right, anybody else have a question about tonight? Anything to revisit? Any questions about bidding wars?
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm always nervous when it comes to the initial bid. Like, how do you gauge that? You said.
Yeah, so the initial bid. So honestly, this is where communication is really key. I talked about my contract. My buyer got on a contract this weekend. Every seller agent does it a little bit differently. Some people will announce highest and best and they'll put a deadline on it. So you can go in with your initial bid and then you'll know that you're in multiples and you might need to sweeten your deal a little bit. So communication is key. The seller's agent I was working with this weekend did not do a highest and best. She just said, do your best. So, you know, that's it. Each case is a little bit different. What I always do is I always go in and look at the comps. I look at things that are under contract because those haven't closed. We don't know what they closed for, but I look to see how quickly they went under contract. And I know if it's been less than 24 or 48 hours, then those are pretty much guaranteed to be over that list price. And we need to position ourselves as accordingly. So, you know, you need to be aggressive about it and use some of those other tactics. The due diligence is another good way to be very aggressive with your offer, but it also depends on the property you're looking at to make sure you're okay with that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. With the prices going 10, 20, 30 over list, how often are you seeing that appraisals are not coming through and it's affecting the whole process?
Okay, so if a house is going 20 to 30 over the list price, more than likely there's going to be a hiccup with the appraisal. I just had a listing that went 10,000 over the list price. We were holding our breath for the appraisal, and the appraisal actually came in over what the seller paid. So it was 11,000 over. So one good thing I feel like is that the appraisers are kind of keeping up with the market a bit now. They didn't do it in the past, but they're very well aware that values are increasing and increasing at a very quick pace. From a listing standpoint, and I always encourage when I'm on the buyer's agent that the list agent do this as well. As soon as I know that when the appraiser is coming and I have their information, I kind of let them know as the list agent, I received 8 offers. I don't share any personal information about it, but I share, here are the 8 offers, here are the prices of those 8 offers, and here's every upgrade that my seller has done to add value to this house. So I try to work with that appraiser, and I can't influence them, but just to let them know my knowledge, this is why people want this house and why it's valued this, to help it appraise so that deal will not fall apart.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, any other questions for tonight? Well, guys, again, thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate your time. Feel free, you've got my information on the screen there. If you have any questions that maybe you think of later, feel free to text me, call me, or shoot me an email. It is a tough market out there, but again, I don't give up. Many buyers lose 1 or 2 properties before they actually get one. But yeah, so just be flexible and keep trying, and good luck out there.
Thanks, Susan.
Right. Thank you. Have a good day, guys. All right. Bye-bye.